I'm just practicing my presentation tomorrow. Good morning, everyone. My name is Yosef Al Samai, and I am here today to present an educational tourism and international student mobility. This topic is one of the fastest growing areas in the international tourism and higher education. To understand its importance, let us begin with a short historic view. In 1975, fewer than 1 million students studied abroad around the world. By 2010, this number had already reached 4.5 million, and in 2022, about 7 million students were enrolled outside their home countries. And by the end of 2024, the figure stood more than 7.5 million. Looking ahead, projection suggestion that by 2030, global student mobility will exceed 10 million students annually. This remarkable growth shows how education has transformed into a global movement. Students today do not only attend classes, they also live in a new destination, experience local culture, and contribute directly to tourism sectors such as housing, food, transportation, and leisure. Their presence creates diversity and builds a bridge between nations and generate billions of dollars in economic value. Educational tourism is therefore Educational tourism is more than just study abroad. It is a powerful combination of learning tourism, economy, and culture. It strengthens university, support local businesses, and gives the students experience that shapes their future. Now let's start with the slide number 2. With this historical background in mind, let us now move into the concept itself. And explore what international student mobility really means. Educational tourism, sometimes called academic tourism, refers to a travel undertaken by students, scholars, and academics for learning purposes. It includes full degree programs, exchange semesters, languages, research visits, and short term courses. What makes this topic form of tourism unique is long duration of stay. Unlike traditional tourists who remains for a few days, international students may stay for months or even years. This long-term presence increases their value for local economies and tourism services. They rent apartments, use transportations daily, eat in a restaurants, shop in a local markets, and visit cultural attractions. Because of this, international student mobility is now considered one of the most strategic and sustainable form of ecotourism. It combines education with lifestyle, and it creates stable demand for local services throughout the year. Now that we understand the concept, let us move and explore the global movement patterns and see where students come from and where they go. Global student mobility today is mainly driven by large Asia economies, China, India, and South Korea are among the leading sending regions with more than 1.5 million students studying abroad every year from these countries alone. On the receiving sides, countries such as USA, UK, Australia, and Germany and Canada host nearly 60% of all international students around the world. These flows often follow strong economy and cultural corridors. What does mean corridors? I don't know. اسحب خاصتك جو راجع. What the fuck are you saying? درس بدل ما تجلس فارغ. Global student mobility today is mainly driven by large Asian economies. China, India, and South Korea are among the leading sending region, with more than 1.5 million students studying abroad every year from these countries only. كيف حالك؟ الله أكبر الحمد لله حياك فرقان بي nasılsın الحمد وأنت كيف حالك؟ Is this message translated or what? I cannot understand. Where are you from? من أين أنت؟ Nerelisin? Nasılsın? De dónde eres? Hoş geldiniz. Furkan Bey, ben 4 tane dil konuşuyorum. Arapça, İngilizce, Türkçe, İspanyolca. Diller öğrenmek istiyorsan bana söyle. 4 لغات أتكلم بإذن الله. العربية، الإنجليزية، الإسبانية، التركية. 4 language I speak English, Spanish, Turkish, and Arabic. At the same time, I'm learning Spanish. Yo hablo 4 idiomas. Y turco, árabe, inglés y español. Global student mobility today is mainly driven by large Asian economy, by large Asian economies. Global student mobility. Global student mobility today is mainly driven by large Asian economies. China, India, and South Korea are among the leading sending regions. They send students with more than 1.5 million students studying abroad every year from these countries only alone. On the receiving sides, on the receiving side, countries such as the USA, UK, Australia, Germany, and Canada host nearly 60% of all international students around the world. These flow often strong economic and culture corridors. Corridors. What does it mean, corridors? I don't know. Anyone who wants to know the meaning of corridors? We're gonna try to explore that.
Corridors.
Corridors. Corridors. What does it mean, corridors? Asia to North America, the Middle East to Europe, and increasingly south, mobility between developing countries. What does mean south? Hello? Anyone who wants to learn 4 languages?
On the receiving side, countries such as the USA, UK, Australia, Germany, and Canada host nearly 60% of all international students worldwide. These flows often follow strong economic and cultural corridors, Asia to North America, the Middle East to Europe, and increasingly south-south mobility between developing countries.
More and more objectified perception on women. That's how they usually see them. Both thing works for both genders, but usually I see this happening to most of the young men, especially in this day and age. So it becomes a problem when you just can't stop. And the unfortunate truth is that most people really can't.
So the harms of pornography are nearly infinite.
International student mobility has now reached an extraordinary global scale, more than 6.4 million students study outside their home countries, making it one of the fastest growing form of international travel. The market has expanded by 75% and 85% of all students come from Asia, confirming its role as the leading source region. Beyond education, the financial value of this market exceeds $40 billion annually, supported by tuition, accommodation, transport, food, and lifestyle spending. These figures these figures clearly show that academic migration has become powerful tourism and economic force shaping both universities and local communities. With the scale established, the next question is which destination benefit the most from this global movement? Top destinations. The world top destinations countries continue to dominate international student mobility throughout strong academic reputation and attractive living environments. The United States hosts more than 1 million students, supported by world-class universities and excellent career opportunities. The United Kingdom attracts around 680,000 students benefiting from the English language and shorter degree structure. Australia welcomes nearly 705,000 students offering high quality of life and post-study work visas, while Canada hosts over 800,000 students with affordable tuition and immigration pathway. These destinations shows that successful educational tourism depends on combining academic excellence with tourism appeal and long-term life opportunities. Behind these successful destinations, the sending countries themselves reveal another important side of the story. The major source countries. The main source countries shape the future of global education tourism. China remains the largest source market, sending over 1 million students abroad each year. India follows with more than 770,000 students, growing at 15% annually. Countries like South Korea and Vietnam also play an increasingly important role, especially in Asia Pacific mobility. These sources market are critical because they influence university market strategies, airline demand, destination branding, and long-stay tourism services. Their growth reflects rising middle classes, strong ambitions for international careers, and the global value of prestigious education. Student origins are important, but the reason behind their decisions reveal even deeper insights. Several key motivations explain why students decide to study abroad. The first, academic quality, especially universities with a strong global ranking and advanced research opportunities, The second is career development, since many destinations offer internships, work visas, and international networking opportunities. Chances. أنا قمر يماني. What does mean of internship? ما لها ناهي. مرحبا. Hello.
So this is my experience with submitting over 100 internship applications. So I applied to a total of 109 internships through places like LinkedIn, career portals, or direct referrals. Now my results were 51 rejections, 41 no responses, 16 still under review, and 1 offer. Now what has been
When you're in high school, the word summer is almost synonymous with vacation. Hanging out with friends, going to the beach, and maybe a part-time job scooping ice cream. You've probably imagined this will continue throughout college, kind of like spring break, since the college school year also lets out during this time. But you would be wrong. Hi, I'm Shravya, and today we're going to talk about what summer vacation looks like when you're in college. Specifically, we're going to go over some unspoken assumptions about how you should spend that time, including summer internships. So what do most college students do in the summer anyways? Well, in college, summers are usually reserved for what you might call experience building. You spend the school year taking classes and learning for your future career, and you spend the summer putting those skills to use doing something work-related. This could be a summer program, a research position, or, most often, an internship. Okay, but what exactly is an internship? Well, an internship is kind of like a regular job, except it's limited to a certain period of time. This is, as you probably guessed, most often summer, but they can also take place during the school year or even winter break. The purpose is to gain experience and connections. Since it's for a limited time, your employer will get to test you out as an employee, while you'll get to see if you like them and the work more generally. You'll develop connections with people who can help you find another job or internship later on, and most importantly, you'll have some experience to show off on your resume when you graduate. It doesn't just matter how well you do in a class during the school year. Employers will want to see how well you perform in an actual workplace. Having your summers filled with relevant experience will give you a huge leg up when trying to find a job after graduation. But there is a catch. Many, if not most, internships are unpaid. They basically expect you to work for free, paying you an experience and free coffee. Now, there are exceptions, and a few do pay you close to what you'd be making there as an employee. Some may even give you a return offer after you graduate. But those internships are harder to come by and are often pretty competitive. So you may have to work unpaid or low-paying internships your first couple summers before working up to that.
You'll be like, why are you always traveling?
Well, Global Exposure is a digital marketing agency, as you very well know. We specialise in website builds and digital marketing. So you mentioned PPC, SEO, social media marketing, email marketing. In an ideal world, we would talk to a customer in
MBBS abroad means getting global exposure and unlocking huge...
Oh hey, where are you from?
Hi, I'm from Kerala.
I'm from Russia, Moscow.
I'm from Delhi.
I'm from Bogota, Colombia. I am from Mumbai, Maharashtra.
I'm from Myanmar.
I'm from Kolkata, West Bengal.
I am from Sudan. I am from Srinagar, Kashmir.
I'm from Tanzania.
I'm from Himachal Pradesh.
I'm from Zimbabwe. I'm from Tirunelveli, Tamil Nadu.
I am from Ghana. I am from Uttar Pradesh.
I am from Haryana. I'm from Andhra Pradesh. I'm from Jaipur, Rajasthan.
I'm from Odisha.
I'm from Punjab.
सारे अनुज सारे जिन्ने इत्थे स्टूडेंट्स पढ़दे आ सारी फैकल्टी नूं
كان معايا تحدي على 900 سعودي، لكن من اجل ابراهيم الخولاني كنسلت التحدي. ابراهيم الخولاني معه تحدي اذا وصل مليون متابع خلق.
There are robots the size of bees, others that can jump on water, and some that are powered by tiny combustion engines the size of a penny. One day they could work in swarms, they could save your life, or even spy on you. We got access to the best micro-robotics labs in the world to learn how these robots work, and what are they for. This video is sponsored by Onshape. This is a tiny yellow submarine. Underwater, it can move around by flapping these miniature wings 9 times per second. But you can use those same wings when the submarine is out of the water. Only now you have to flap them 250 times a second to make it fly. So this robot can do both. It can fly and swim. But since it weighs only 175 milligrams, about the mass of 2 Cheerios, surface tension is a problem.
That's a consequence of physics at a smaller scale. The surface tension is like a wall that blocks the transition process.
This happens because water molecules are slightly polar. Groups of these molecules pull in all directions, but at the surface, there's no water above, so the pull is only sideways and downwards. This imbalance creates strong cohesive forces that compress the surface into a tightly packed layer, making it difficult to break. This is the same effect that lets water striders walk on the surfaces of ponds and lakes. This other robot weighs only 68 milligrams, and by using a spring mechanism that mimics a flea's leg, it can jump without breaking the water's surface, just like a water strider. It's like there's solid ground below. Now that's great if you want to stay on top of the water, but this barrier can also be a problem if you want to go underwater. To escape this trap, the submarine splits water into hydrogen and oxygen, and then stores these gases in a buoyancy chamber. It does this because the wings are super fragile. If they started flapping while the robot was still trapped underwater, they would break right off. So the buoyancy from the gas helps bring the fragile parts of the robot out of the water. But the robot is still stuck in that top layer of surface tension. So a sparker inside the chamber ignites the gas, and the explosion breaks the surface tension and shoots the robot 30
This combination of education and life experience makes student mobility one of the most attractive and sustainable forms of international travel. It is not only about learning but also about transformation and growth. These motivations naturally lead us to the next part of the story, the significant economic outcome in host destinations. Economic impact overview. The economic contribution of the international student goes far beyond tuition fees. Every year, they generate more than $46 billion dollars through university payment, rent houses, food, transportation, and personal consumptions. Because students stay for months or even years, or their spending is continuous and stable, unlike short-term tourists who only spend for a few days. This long-term presence creates a strong multiplier affects economies and estimate. Who's that? Neden? Terse kullanıyorsunuz. Kim bu? I think he's motherfucker. ايش ايش destinations other destinations بديت الجلسة على اليمين. ايش؟ بقول لك بطل اللواكع. ايش؟ لما تقولي نزلني قولي نزلني قولي نزلني. To apply for one of the study programs, compute our easy online application form. The form will ask you some basic questions including your personal details, preferred programs, and your education history. To help us assess your academic level, you do not have to complete the form all at once. You can save it at any point and return it later. You can choose to upload your supporting documents such as a transcript, English certifications, and passport copy, etc. with your online applications, or submit your form without them and provide this later via email or post. A student enrollment advisor will advise on the documents they need to process your application. Please complete all sections of this form and carefully read the terms and conditions, and our admissions team will review your application and contact you soon. According with the student privacy studying group include study group UK, I agree to the terms and the This is not the time.
An intellectual partner rather than passive students. What is the most surprising difference you found in the UK? What surprised me the most is actually how independent students here are. I feel like a student here, they are very active in asking questions. You are expected to question, to challenge, and to form your own ideas. And the lecturer is actually doing a very excellent role in supporting students. So yeah, that was both exciting and slightly terrifying me in the first week. Now I just feel completely normal with that. Lecturers really treat us like an intellectual partner rather than passive students. My classrooms always have interactive activities, so I really enjoy it. I think the teaching style here really suit me in that sense.
مرفسك تطلع لي قبل حلو اوكي تاخذ يمين ايه يمين وبعدين اوكي يصير قبالك اويلي زين اسالك سؤال ثاني.
جواب.
هاي شنو الهوسه اللي هنا؟
هاي الهوسه تقرا كانت زباله.
ايه
انا سويت بالشفل لميتها كلها.
يابا
لميتها.
ايه
وصعدتها لي فوق.
ايه
بعدين راح اشيلها من جوا واذبها بالزباله الثانيه.
زين خليني اسالك
جالسة مع الغرام. Motherfucker.
It always strikes me how people think about their presentations or how they prepare their presentations. I'm actually talking about the first words, the first sentences of a presentation. What most people do is they think of a presentation, so automatically you think about the PowerPoint. So you make your slides, you look at your slides, and you think about what will I say showing each slide. But my question to you is this. What are your first words? What are the first sentences? Very few people think about that. Just think a minute about the presentations that you have already seen in the past, maybe the presentations that you have done yourself. There is a cliche sentence that most speakers use to introduce their topic. They say something like, good morning, good afternoon, my name is, if they don't know you. And then there is this typical sentence, today I'm going to talk to you about. Now, you might say, so what's the problem? The problem with this sentence is that you're actually answering the wrong question. You're answering the what question. What are you going to do? I'm going to talk about. If you think about it, most audiences know what you're going to talk about. Either you are introduced, or there is a program, or there is a meeting, so there is an agenda, so people know what your topic is all about. The most interesting question to answer is the why question. Why are you there to talk about this topic? And even more important, why is it important for the audience to listen to you? So my advice for you is to focus on the why question. Now, how can you do that? I advise people to focus on a story to begin their presentation. Now, if you think about stories begin with a time frame. Just look at fairy tale. They start with once upon a time. I'm not going to suggest that you start your professional presentation with once upon a time, but you can start with a time frame. Something like yesterday, 2 weeks ago, last year, 3 months ago. Now, what's the kind of story that you can share then? Use real stories. It has to be something that happened to you. It has to be something that you heard. So you can refer to a conversation you had with a colleague. You can say something like, yesterday I had a conversation with, but then there has to be a reason why you
words you should say in a speech, and what are the last words you should say in a speech. Now tomorrow, I don't know how many of you are speaking, but I guarantee if you go to conferences, 19 out of 20 speakers will start in one of these ways. Number one, my name is Connor Neal, and I'm from Tango, and this talk is about the latest trend in monitoring strategies. Now all of you are sitting with a piece of paper in front of you that says, I'm Connor Neal, I've come from Ireland, and I'm going to talk about Tango 04 and this. So by repeating what you already know, I'm giving a signal that it's a time to get your BlackBerry out. I've just signaled that this talk is opportunity to reconnect with BlackBerry, make sure the office is okay, and maybe get some plans together for the weekend. Another way to start. The lights, the mic's working. How much time have I got? Okay, right. Okay, is it plugged in? And you laugh, but I guarantee tomorrow there's going to be some moments that get a little bit of that. And why? Because this is, for some of you, the first time you see this individual. They're here as a leader in their industry. And your kid at school presenting on giraffes does a better job. That's sad. So I think there's only 3 ways of starting a speech. And it's the same if you went into a bar and there's a group of people, it's a networking event, much like you were at before you walked into this room. And maybe I came up to a group, there's a group of 3 people that are having a little conversation. I walk in and I say, hi, I'm Connor, I'm Irish, 38 years old, I have an interest in sailing, I like running, and they've walked away. So how do you...
Most people who come to speak at TED are here because they've succeeded. I'm here because I haven't. For the last 10 years, I have been helping conference speakers, business leaders, entrepreneurs to prepare and deliver powerful presentations. And in those same 10 years, TED has shown that presentations can and should be both enjoyable and effective. But 10 years on, despite TED and despite my best efforts at schools, at conferences, at companies, most presentations still do this to their audiences. So, have I failed? No, I just haven't succeeded yet. And to succeed in making all presentations resonate with their audience, I need your help. That's why I'm here. So I'd like to share with you the 3 magic ingredients of powerful presentations. Okay, let's just pause there for a moment. Now, I've told you what I'm going to say. The question you should be asking is, so what? What's in it for me? Why should I care? And that is a really important question because the first magic ingredient is, in fact, the audience. The audience is the magic ingredient in every presentation. This is not my talk. It's yours. Every presentation should be made to measure for a specific audience in a specific context. So why should you care about the magic ingredients of great presentations? Well, it's very important, right? It's really important to understand that we all have to listen to presentations. Wouldn't it be great if they weren't all so boring? But we don't just listen to presentations, we also have to give presentations, right? How many of you ever have to give presentations? I think if we're honest, we all do. Sooner or later, at school, at work, and also in interviews, we all have to present with or without slides. And it's how well we present that will make a huge difference to how well we succeed. That's why you should care. So that's the first magic ingredient, the audience. Always make it special for them. The second magic ingredient is the speaker. Now, okay, you're probably looking at me and thinking, well, Phil, not very magical. Thanks, by the way. But it's really important that you put something of yourself in there, something only you can say. This doesn't mean you tell them what you had for breakfast, but it does mean that if someone else could give the exact same presentation in your place, then you didn't put anything personal into it. And that matters, because when you share, we care. So show why you care. Show why it's important to you. Tell us examples and stories from your experience. and that will make it more personal and more memorable. So those are the first two magic ingredients, the audience and the speaker. I know it doesn't sound very magical, but you'd be amazed how many presentations have neither of them. So the third magic ingredient is transformation. Now, most presentations aim only to inform their audience, and it doesn't work very well. Let me take out my magic wand here, because I'm going to do a disappearing trick. Because, like this guy, we forget most of what we hear very quickly indeed. But good presentations are not about information. They are about transformation. They are about changing something in what your audience believes, in what they feel, in what they do. Imagine you are making a pitch to raise funds for a project or a startup. After your pitch, the audience knows everything they need to know, but they don't fund you. Did you succeed? No. Now imagine that after your pitch, your audience does give you the funds because they feel confident and trusting, and they believe that your project will be successful and it's a good investment. All of that is not information, it's transformation. So it's easy for me to say, don't inform, transform, but how? Well, every magician needs a magic wand, and here is yours. It's called the Audience Transformation Roadmap. This is a really simple but amazingly powerful technique to understand what your transformational objectives are, and then to brainstorm what you can say, show, and do to transform your audience. So here's how it works. To understand how to take your audience on a transformational journey, you first need to work out where they are starting from. So we ask ourselves 4 simple questions. What does my audience know before my presentation? What do they know about the subject? What do they believe? What do they feel? Now, the difference between believing and feeling is believing is something that you think, feeling is an emotion. So, for example,
this is a student who's nervous to present, so let's help them gain some aura. First, I want you to lift your head and look out. Make eye contact with your lovely audience, or look towards the back if you're too nervous. But what about my notes? Bro, those aren't notes. That is a script. Swap that out for some flashcards that just hit the main points, then ad-lib the rest. Okay, know what? Replace those filler words with pauses to sound more confident. But you also need to look more confident. Widen your stance. Good. Now relax your arms. Perfect. And now ease your face. Am I good to begin? Yeah, just be sure to follow Go Hard. This is a student who's nervous to present, so let's help them.
What are 5 steps to become a TEDx speaker in 2023? Number 1, you want to create a great title based on your great idea. Number 2, you got to create a short outline so the TEDx organizers know what you will be talking about. Number 3, after you're ready and you have that done, you jump online and you find TEDx events near you. Just know that TEDx organizers, they accept less than 1% of applicants every single year. Number 4, it's time to submit your applications. Go for it. And number 5, very crucial, you gotta create, you gotta practice, and then you gotta deliver your amazing TEDx speech. What are 5 steps to become a TEDx?
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Sam, and I just turned 17. A few years ago, before my freshman year in high school, I wanted to play snare drum in the Foxborough High School marching band. However, and it was a dream that I just had to accomplish. But each snare drum and harness.
You know, a rocket ship, when it takes off and flies into space, it uses 80% of its fuel. That's the same as a presentation. It takes so much energy and focus in that first 3 to 4 minutes that if you focus and get...
How to begin your speech the right way. The beginning of your speech can make or break you, but a lot of people fumble it because they're either nervous or not prepared. Hi everyone. Sorry, I'm a little nervous today. We have a lot to talk about today. Just wait for my slides. Sorry. Ooh, let's avoid that. Instead, try this. Greet your audience, introduce your topic, and then get into it. As an example, hi everyone, thank you so much for having me here today. I am really excited to talk to you about how to begin your speech the right way. Now we're going to talk about 3 parts. First, greeting your audience. Thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you so much for having me here today. I am really excited to talk to you about how to begin your speech the right way. Now we're going to talk about 3 parts. First, greeting your audience. Second, introducing your topic. And third, getting into it. So, without further ado, let's begin. Do you have any other tips on how to begin a speech? Let me know in the comments. And hi everyone! Thank you so much for having me here today.
I started my late.
Okay, so hello everyone.
You know, a rocket ship.
Okay, so hello everyone.
You know, a rocket ship.
Okay, so hello everyone.
Okay, so hello
I'm
everyone.
Sam, and
I'm Yusuf.
How to begin your speech?
I started my latest TEDx speech.
Design principles that will cognitively and
How to begin your speech the right way. The beginning of your speech. How to end a speech. Sometimes people end their speeches way too quick. If you end too abruptly, it can kind of take people out of the mood. You have to remember that most of the time, people will only remember the beginning, the middle, and the end of your speech. I recommend the following structure. Quickly summarize what you spoke about. Have a call to action, and then thank your audience. For example, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's public speaking and presentation skills training. We talked briefly about A, B, and C. What I would like you to do is reflect on what we've learned today. Really go over your notes. And I want you to see how you can plug these tips and techniques into your next speech or presentation. And then we'll talk about this in a month and see how you've grown as a public speaker. Let's learn how to end. Hey everyone, this is Jonathan Pang, and today I'm going to share 5 tips with you on how to do better in the Toastmasters International Speech Contest. So you might be asking, who am I to give you these tips? Well, last year I competed in the 2017 National Speech Evaluation Contest in China, and I got first place. So I'm really happy to share my tips with you on how I did that. The first thing is getting used to a large audience. Now, the further you go in the Toastmasters Speech Contest, the bigger and bigger the audience is going to get. Now, if you've never spoken in front of a big audience before, well, it can be really scary.
These 500 rounds are programmed with one mission in mind, to get my nephew back on this. This is the world's first ever actual pool of Jell-O. And while it may look simple, it's actually a very difficult engineering challenge to pull off. As proof, if you Google Jell-O pool, you will either find bad CGI or a handful of videos of people who tried to do this, but it really didn't work out. So today, we're going to answer possibly the longest standing question from my childhood. What would it be like to actually belly flop in a pool of Jell-O? But before we do that, I want to talk about what we actually had to go through for the past 6 months to pull this off. The idea of a Jell-O pool has been on my bucket list for over 4 years. In fact, when Kevin from the Backyard Scientists and I made the 25 million Orbeez pool, our first idea was to do a pool of Jell-O. But it's really hard, because if you've ever made Jell-O, you might recall you first have to boil water,
Which thing gives you the most strength on the long ride, the front
or the back?
To find out, I ran a test using these shirts that get darker when they get wet and handed them out to 30 brave test subjects and sent them on their way. And when each of the subjects finished the ride, we took pictures of their shirts and then wrote a program to analyze the percentage of water coverage. And when the saturation percentages came back, we plotted them out and the results were undeniable. The front was by far the most wet and it wasn't even close. The second seat was the second least dry, with riders getting drier as you go back. And now that I'm drenched, this is not a great look. I will never forget. Which seat gets you the most drenched on the log ride? The front? What makes this is a fully armed sugar grenade. Here you go, Bob.
Here you go, Bob. Hello everyone, my name is Yusuf. تو ہے تے جنت میری تو ہے تجا.
هي مجرد هدف. إذا أول متنافس هو الخل العنبي بتركيز 6%. عادة يضاف إلى السلطة، أما اليوم فسنضيفه إلى الديدان الخيطية. الآن سأضع قطرة بجانبهم بشكل يكون حدا بين الماء الذي تعيش فيه الديدان والخل. ما رأيكم بهذا؟ جدار حامضي. انظروا. Look, some of the nematodes are so shocked they've just frozen, as if someone hit pause. Just a second ago they were wriggling like crazy, and now it's a freeze frame. But this is just the beginning. I dropped it nearby, but tiny splashes have already reached the little worms. And you see, where the vinegar landed, the worms suddenly slowed down. But over here in the clean water, they're still lively. The boundary between the water and the vinegar is gradually breaking down, and as soon as the acid bursts into the thick of the nematodes, chaos erupts. Only 3 minutes have passed and most of them are already immobilized. They're lying there like little logs, not twitching, not crawling. Poor things, but we're observing the experiment to the end. Look, over here the vinegar hasn't reached yet. The nematodes have huddled together inside some old remains. Apparently they thought it was safe there. Yeah, right. I create a barrier again, and then a wave of acid just washes away their shelter. In literally 1 minute, they stop moving. That's faster than I can drink my coffee. For the sake of experimental accuracy, let's add one more drop. That's it. Silence, not a single movement. No more than 10 minutes have passed, and that's it. There's no more movement. By the way, about the bacteria, they didn't survive either. They dissolved like sugar in tea, only without the sugar. Here's an interesting point. The nematode eggs behave differently. Those that were outside lost their activity within 10 minutes, while those inside the body of the mother worm lasted longer, about 30 minutes. Apparently the body gave them a little protection, but not for long. So vinegar is no joke. Even the eggs didn't show any resistance. Now let's test 5% apple cider vinegar. It's a bit less acidic, but still packs a punch. A new batch of nematodes. There are even more of them here than the first time.
Hello, hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. The slide 20. Key points. Educational tourism is now one of the most strategic forms of international tourism because slide 20. Key points. Educational tourism is now one of the most strategic forms of international tourism because slide 20. Key points. Educational tourism is now one of the most strategic forms of international tourism because slide 20. Key points. Educational tourism is now one of the most
بدأوا ينسقوا في الحل. الفرق هو انهم صرفوا لما بدأ كل شيء ينهار. كان علي القرار حينها اما استثمار كامل مالي في نسله او موتها. في 2008
What would it take to build the world's most autonomous personal airplane?
I was really young, maybe 7, 8 years. I wanted to be a jet fighter pilot by then. But then, of course, there's no F-22s in Brazil, neither F-18s or F-16s. They're different kind of fighters. So I decided to be a flight test engineer. That was my path to actually fly this interesting aircraft that I was in love with. And I've been working in fly-by-wire for other aircraft that I'm not able to fly myself. Bringing fly-by-wire.
Nuclear weapon, and we agreed to a lot of things, but they didn't agree to that, and I think they will agree to it. I'm almost sure of it. In fact, I am sure of it. If they don't agree, there's no deal.
Has your timetable changed in any way in terms of ending this conflict?
No, we're just going. It's going on. Just right now, there's no fighting. Right now, we have a blockade. They're doing no business.
The U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz officially taking effect. President Trump reiterating he will not come to any agreement where Tehran obtains a nuclear weapon. He told me the same over the weekend, and talks of future negotiations between the U.S. and Iran could be in the works right now. Pakistan reportedly offering to host a new round of talks in Islamabad by the end of the week, as soon as Thursday. President Trump also told me on Sunday that peace negotiations fell apart over the weekend because Tehran severely misjudged what leverage they thought they had. The Wall Street Journal this morning is reporting that the U.S. asked Iran to suspend nuclear enrichment for 20 years without a moratorium that would come with sanctions relief. And then there's Lebanon, meeting for talks with the U.S. and Israel today in Washington. Officials in Lebanon say they want the negotiations to be separate from
practice English 16 hours every single day, living. I practice English 16 hours every single day, living in a non-English speaking country, and I haven't opened a grammar book in 3 years. And if you're still sitting down trying to study, that is exactly why you're stuck. I don't use grammar books, I don't study vocabulary, but I never stop practicing. I built a system where my entire life became English without adding extra time. I call it invisible immersion. It has 4 phases, and once you see it, you will never go back to studying again. But before I show you that, you have to see why I had to change everything. 2 years ago, I was stuck. I knew the words, I understood grammar, but speaking English felt like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube in 10 seconds with someone watching. One night, I was at a restaurant, and I saw a guy, alone, an English speaker, and I thought, this is it. 2 years of studying, this is what it was for. So I walked up and said, hi. He smiled and said, hi, how are you?
Hello there. Today, we're going to do some shadowing practice. One of the most effective ways to improve listening, fluency, and confidence. Remember, Hello there.
The Late Show will begin after this important message from First Lady Melania Trump.
Hello. Last week, I held an extremely WTF press conference where I explained that I never spent any time with Jeffrey Epstein except for all the time I spent with Jeffrey Epstein. I gave my speech for many reasons. Most importantly, talking about Jeffrey Epstein distracts people from the war that was started to distract people from talking about Jeffrey Epstein.
Can you see me, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I just was wondering, because
Mm-hmm.